Hi guys, welcome to EduKingdom College's Selective Preparation Power Reading Test 41 revision. Today we have 10 questions that reference extracts A, B, C, and D. We will begin first by reading through these extracts together and identifying key features. So let's look through extract A and B first. Extract A reads, Stonehenge is on the list of most visited monuments in the United Kingdom. It is a particularly impressive structure, and scientists believe it has been standing for over 4,500 years. Stonehenge is a magnificent structure with its central trilithons made up of two massive upright, rough-hewn stones with horizontal lanterns set on the tops. While it is possible for us to describe this structure, what makes it difficult for scientists is to conclude its intended purpose. For many middle-aged Britons, the story that the structure had somehow magically carried the Salisbury Plain from an Irish site was believed to be the origin of the structure. During the 16th and 17th centuries, eminent people suggested that it had been a Roman temple. The first systematic study of the structure was made by William Stukely. His research, accurate measurements, and accurate drawings led to his conclusion that it was the high priest of early England, that the Druids actually presided over Stonehenge as a temple, and the stones were set in such a way as to be oriented to the seasons. So quickly before we move on to extract B, I'll just define what trilithon from extract A meant. A trilithon is a stone structure made of two upright stones that support a third stone across the top. And that describes the shape and the visuals of Stonehenge. You can also search it up on Google. Let's move on to extract B. Extract B reads, In the center of Australia is one of the world's greatest natural monoliths that admits an impressive array of rock and desert formations. It can be reached by coach or other motor vehicles, but it's equally impressive when traveling by helicopter across this vast, incredibly beautiful rock. It is around 9 kilometers in circumference and over 300 meters above the surrounding plain. The rock is composed of pinkish-red conglomerates, and over time, erosion has carved a fluted effect on the lower slopes. The rock was originally called Ayers Rock after Premier of South Australia, Sir Henry Ayers. To the Aboriginal people, it is a sacred place, and the cave walls are decorated with their paintings. The rock is called Uluru by the Aborigines and is a major tourist attraction in an area that has thousands of visitors each year. The freehold title to the rock was transferred to the Matadjula people in 1985, but the federal government released the rock and have some input into the management of the rock as a commercial activity. Some tourists fly directly to the rock and land at Ayers Rock Airport in Uluru. Tourists gaze in awe at the changing colors of the rock at dawn and sunset. Now we'll move on to extract C. Extract C reads, Landmarks in areas of significant cultural, historical, scientific, and physical values are often designated with World Heritage Site status. You may have heard of this before, and I'll describe it briefly after we finish reading. This designation is administered by UNESCO and grants protections with the intent of preserving the landmark/area for future generations. With over 1,154 sites in 167 countries, it is a highly successful convention that has prevented the loss of such sites and areas from external threats. The event that sparked the creation of the convention was the planned construction of the Aswan High Dam by the Egyptian government. It was predicted that the completion of the dam would have inundated several significant landmarks and sites in the area. As a result, an international campaign to document, salvage, and relocate as many affected monuments and sites as possible was initiated in 1960 by UNESCO. The project was considered a success, with notable temple complexes such as Abu Simbel and Philae being completely dismantled and relocated to a safer location. The campaign introduced the idea to safeguard significant landmarks and areas around the world, eventuating in the World Heritage Convention in 1972 after years of consultation. So I'll quickly read over some of the World Heritage sites that you may have heard of. So, for example, in Australia, There are many World Heritage sites, which include the Great Barrier Reef and Kakadu National Park. Okay, now we'll continue reading to extract D. Extract D reads, the centenary of the French Revolution was to be celebrated with the 1889 World Fair, hosted by Paris, which kickstarted the construction and completion of the Eiffel Tower as its centerpiece attraction. The tower was redesigned from its original draft in 1884 to make it more aesthetically pleasing and to validate its structural integrity. The design was then entered into a competition which it won. Approval for construction was then given in 1887, but was met with fierce criticism by artists and architects of its time, calling it black smokestack and a ghastly dream. Upon completion, it was the tallest structure in the world and was a monument of modern engineering, a clear demonstration of the vertical potential of iron construction. Originally planned to be demolished and removed after 20 years, it received a second lease on life by serving as a highly useful radiotelegraphy tower due to its immense height. The Eiffel Tower remains as one of the most easily recognized landmarks in the world and remains a now beloved asset to the Parisian people, with its value far surpassing the 1.5 million USD price tag it originally cost to build. Okay, now we'll look at the questions. This is questions 1 to 5. Question 1 to 5 reads, read the 4 extracts below on the theme of landmarks. For questions 1 to 10, choose the options A, B, C, or D. So extract A, B, C, or D, which you think best answers the question. Which extract suggests the purpose of this landmark is a point of large debate? So we'll go back to looking at the landmarks. So Stonehenge, and then there was Uluru, and then there was about UNESCO and the Eiffel Tower. So here, the question asking the purpose, it is unlikely to be extract C, because extract C is simply talking about protecting certain sites and landmarks. So we are not going to put in C. It is unlikely to be D as well, the Eiffel Tower, since the last sentence talks about how it is now a beloved asset. So it is unlikely to be a point of large debate, but it had been in the past, but no longer, so it cannot be D. And if you look at A and B, it is unlikely to be B, since here they are not talking about any large debate as suggested in the question, so it must be A. And we know it is A because A, they were talking about how in Stonehenge, scientists have been unable to conclude what its intended purpose was. So for question 1, we can put in our answer as A, which I will just quickly write now. Okay, sorry, the pen is not working. Let's move on to question 2. Explains why the landmark is shaped as it is. If we go back to the extract, which is talking about shape, it is either D or B, because A and C weren't really talking about shapes. So it would probably be between the two, B, because Uluru is naturally shaped. So for question 2, we have B. Now we'll move on to question 3. Mentions the initial disdain for the landmark's proposal. We can remember that that was D, the Eiffel Tower, and we can see it in the line where it said, approval for construction was then given in 1887, but was met with fierce criticism by artists and architects of the time. So that's how we know that. For 3, it's D. Now we'll move on to question 4. Describes a title which would significantly improve the landmark status. So we're thinking of something that would make it better, and we would be able to cross out A and B, since A and B aren't mentioning any names and they already have names. So it would probably be C, the World Heritage Site, because they said that the World Heritage Site is a good thing when they said that it was considered a success with notable temple complexes. So that's why 4 would be C. Now we'll move on to question 5. Implies that the conversation of landmarks was often disregarded in the past. And again, we can talk about 5 because they're mentioning history, and in the UNESCO extract, which is C, they were mentioning the history. And if you go back to the question, landmarks were often disregarded, which is correct in when they were mentioning the Aswan High Dam by the Egyptian government. So that's why 5 is also C. Now we'll move on to questions 6 and 10, which will be doing the same thing. You put in option A, B, C, or D. So question 6 reads, states the main methods of visiting the landmark. So if we go and you're talking about how to get there, it wouldn't be D because it's a tower and it's very tall, so you can see it from many parts of the city of Paris. So it's unlikely to be D. It's not C since they're mentioning many sites in C. So it'd be either A or B. And here, if they're talking about how to get there, it would be most likely extract B, where they mentioned earlier that you can reach it through coach or other motor vehicle. So that's why question 6 is B. Now we'll move on to question 7. Explains why the landmark is shaped, that's the wrong question. Explains why the landmark is considered important. So if we talk about importance, it's unlikely to be extract D. It's unlikely to be extract C for the same reasons as the question previous. It is unlikely to be question A here since we are not sure of why it had been made, so we're unsure if it is important. So it would be extract B again, where they're talking about how it was important to the Aboriginal people. So now we'll move on to question 8, which reads, suggests a change in opinion towards the landmark. And that question was similar to question 3. So which means it must be extract D, because they are talking about, if you look at the question, the change in opinion, how previously mentioned again, they had been met with criticism, but now it's a beloved structure. So the answer for question 8 is D. Now we'll move on to question 9. Question 9 reads, mentions how a proposed conclusion regarding a landmark was formed. So remember here, this question is asking, or it's in reference to that we don't know something was made or we don't know why it was formed. So it must be extract A, Stonehenge. If you remember how in Stonehenge they talked about how they're unsure why it was made. And if you look at the last question, it reads, implies the landmark was constructed on time for a significant event. Well, again, let's look at the options. There was extract A, B, and C. And here it is unlikely to be A because, again, we are not sure why Stonehenge was made. It is unlikely to be extract B, since extract B, it's a naturally formed landmark. And if we look at option C, it is unlikely to be option C because, again, option C is talking about UNESCO. So last answer, 10, must be D. So I'll read the answers out again, just if you didn't hear. Question 1 was A, question 2 was B, question 3 was D, 4 is C, 5 is C, 6 is B, 7 is B, 8 is D, 9 is A, 10 is D. So thank you for watching EduKingdom College's Selective Preparation Power Reading Test 41 revision. That was all the questions. Thank you guys.